Hi, so today I invited Alanna Caron, who is an amazing event specialist working with companies of all sizes, from startups to large corporates. She's the founder of iconic event experiences based here in South Florida. And Alana knows everything about events and how not to waste your money on stupid events. Welcome, Alana.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure to have you here. Alana, you will be grilled mercilessly, so it will be a difficult one for you. But let's start with the first question.
Mhm,
What do most small business owners get wrong the first time they run an event? You know how everyone establishes a company,
mhm.
starts thinking, well, actually, it would be good to have an event. What is the most common mistake?
The first mistake I would say is not having a strategy. As with everything, a business owner is always going to have a strategy for their sales strategy, etc. They should also have an events strategy. A lot of meeting owners will think that the event is about them, but it's actually not. It's about and should be designed around the audience's transformation because that's what you're trying to do. You're either impacting, you're influencing, or you're transforming your audience. So think about it from that perspective. It's simply a change of perspective. And I think that's what most small businesses need to consider when they're doing their initial events.
Okay, great, thank you. And I feel some events are kind of waste of money. I've seen a lot of people just wasting money on an event without setting goals or not achieving their goals. So, in your experience, what's the quickest way to waste money on an event, and why do so many people fall for it?
I would say it's probably the AV. That's probably going to be your audio visual. That's going to be your biggest expense.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of companies or a lot of individuals will think, oh, we need to have this. We need to have all the bells and whistles. You need to really be mindful of how you're spending your budget. Obviously, you're mindful of your entire overall budget. It can sometimes it's the creep effect. Oh, we need to have this. Oh, we need to have that. This, then now let's add on this. Let's add on that. I would recommend to business owners, small business owners, when they're starting out with their meetings program, because think of it as a strategy, think of it as a program. You need to strip it back. Start with the essentials. What are you trying to accomplish, and how can you quickly accomplish that? You actually don't need all the bells and whistles. What you need is connection, and that comes from your content.
There are a lot of businesses, they are still startups, just starting out, maybe 1 2 years in the business, and they still have tiny budgets. They don't have tens of thousands of dollars to spend on meetings, training, different types of events, hospitality. So if I'm a really small business on a tiny budget, what kind of things should I spend my event on first? And what are the kind of things that are non-essential? And I should just say, listen, it's great, it's desirable. If I don't spend on it, it's not a big deal.
Very great point. Very great question. I would first, where is your venue? What venue? What type of venue are you engaging for this type of event? Keeping in mind, if you're very small, I would highly suggest that you actually don't do an in-person meeting yet. You start with your virtual, build your audience that way, and then slowly but surely you can increase to in person. So then you could do more of a meet and greet with coffee, etc. When you're starting to move to where you're doing presentations, this is where the venue will then be of paramount importance. Don't overshoot. Keep it small, keep it tight. You can have multiples in a small venue, and as well, stay away from the swag, stay away from over the top decor. Honestly, people today, they're coming for what your content is. Most people have very, very busy schedules and they don't have time to waste. So they're truly coming for your content. The swag is another thing. Everybody gets swag. And quite frankly, I have a closet full of it and I'm constantly giving it away. I've actually even stopped taking swag and I still have a lot of swag. So these are things that I don't think are beneficial. If you're going to give something away as far as swag, then I would suggest a Christmas present or something of that, perhaps their anniversary, their business anniversary, their birthday, things like that. Again, swag, unless it's impactful, it's going to detract from your content.
Thank you. Great answer. Um, and then I feel some people, create an event. It's a beautiful event. Everything is well set up. People come take photos, blast it on LinkedIn. So it's kind of an event that I call an event that gets a lot of applause. People are like, wow, raving. But they don't achieve their goals set for the event, or have not even set the goal for the event. So what's the difference between an event that gets all this applause and an event that actually drives revenue? Because in business, ultimately, whatever we do is the purpose is to grow business, to grow the revenue. So what is the difference between these two?
And then that is exactly right. An applause event, and I love that term. I'm going to steal it from you from now on, Anna. An applause event makes people feel entertained. A revenue event makes people take action. So ROI is very important for both the presenter or the host event, the host company, so the small business that's putting on the event. But don't forget about the ROI for your attendee. They want an ROI from attending your event. So what's their ROI going to be? What's their return on their investment? And their investment is time. Because if you give them a good ROI on their time qualitatively, they will come back. That cycle will then turn into a confirmed sale, a closed deal, a deeper relationship with a pre-existing client. So just remember, applause makes them feel entertained. A revenue event makes them take action.
Love it. I'm gonna steal that for you, from you and keep it. Um, so a little bit of a lighthearted question for you. Aside from your mother-in-law, who is the worst person to invite to your event if you want your event to be successful?
Um, I'm a very practical sort because I live in the weeds for my clients. So I'm going to say anybody that's not your target audience. The numbers should never matter. Always make sure, I just gave a presentation recently and I said, but one of my favorite saying is it's not the amount of people that are in the room. All you need is 12 people in the room that truly matter. And that principle should be applied to every single event that you give, that any small business or any business should give. Truly, the people that matter should be in the room. It again, we're not entertaining people. There are places for that. So awards dinners, things like that. There is the place. When you're doing business, make sure the people that count are in the room. And also from an attendee's perspective, they don't need to be invited to an event where they're not going to get anything out of it. Then again, for them, it's a waste of their time. So it's a symbiotic, it's that great relationship that you will have with either your existing clients and your potential clients to make sure that you're making the most of both of your quality of time.
I love this idea of the ROI for actually people attending the event. That's true. So I'm sure you work with all sorts of clients, quirky clients, clients who are like standard clients.
Mhm.
But what's one thing that you wish clients would stop asking you to do at events? I'm sure there are a couple of things where you think like, why is everyone asking me to do this? And it just makes no sense. So from your professional perspective, what's one thing you would ask them to stop doing or asking you to do?
Can we wing it? Structure isn't optional. It's the backbone of the revenue. If you have the structure, you can guide. Because the other thing that I want people to remember is all aspects of an event are impactful. So the subconscious, where you're having it, the temperature, the view, the elements, how you're doing the seating. Somebody who is in a theater seating where it's row after row after row, that's a different effect than say, putting them in rounds of 10 where you're creating pods, etc. So every element needs to be thought out, and winging it is never a good idea. And then the second one, which I know for smaller companies is not going to be maybe something of paramount importance, but I will tell you, as you start to grow your events and you start to get bigger, AV is going to be your biggest advantage and it's going to be your biggest pitfall. AV has to be locked down because if a presentation goes wrong, the entire event can go wrong. So it's twofold. It would be the structure, making sure you've got a good run of show, making sure you've got a good foundation for that, and then as well your AV.
Tell me a time where you had to rescue an event disaster. What happened? How did you fix it? We see all these things, in movies. I'm sure you had some entertaining stories as well. So
I mean, I don't have as many entertaining stories as many others because I do pride myself on making sure that things go well. So my disasters tend to be smaller. They tend to be things that are completely, truly out of my control, not mistakes necessarily. The one big major one is I had a pharmaceutical meeting in Moscow, and we had sent all the collateral. This was in the days when everything was printed. So we used, same printer, had never had any issues, etc. The problem was is they got caught in customs, and they were held in customs, and they were ransomed. So there was nothing we can do. And then at some point, we truly had to make a call. And we had the local office, which I felt so bad for those people. They ended up reprinting everything. So we reached out internally, the client reached out to their network, and we had them support us in that respect. Moving forward, that was a very good lesson. That changed the process for our printer, that she never ever worked again without a broker. Not just trusting that things were going to go through because she had always done, she'd always filled out the forms correctly, etc. You can never guarantee who's going to be holding your box at that customs exchange and potentially holding it. It is what it is. Other ones, let me think. Like again, it's so hard to think of because I don't usually my disasters, if you will, come from actually attendee behavior. And that is not something that
oh,
we can
tell us
control.
more. Tell us more.
Yes, there was one. It was a sales conference, and one of the sales individuals got very, very inebriated. Uh, Open bars was not a thing. It just happened that that individual got inebriated, and I had to let the client know because This is an event planner, as a meeting planner, my job is also to mitigate risk on the behalf of my client. So that was a client facing meeting. That individual is putting the company brand and reputation at risk with their behavior. So again, we wear many hats, we hold many titles. We have to make sure that not only the logistics right and the food comes out hot, nobody overdrinks and gets overserved. And that is one thing that I'm very, very firm on myself personally. But we're also an extension of the client, of the company. We need to make sure at all costs we keep intact their reputation. So, and there are others, but they're not appropriate for online. People behaving badly, it happens.
So whoever is watching it, you better reach out to Alana, schedule a coffee with her to know a little bit more about this. I'm sure it's a very entertaining cup of coffee.
It is. It definitely is, and it's some interesting stories.
Back to business. KPI.
Yes.
I personally am a great believer that what you measure is what you get. So
Mhm.
for all activities in my company, I set clear KPIs. Whatever we do, this is what we're looking to achieve. So think about event KPIs. What are the KPIs or metrics clients tend to use that are completely useless? And you feel like these KPIs, okay, the kind of it's better than nothing, but they are of little use. And what are the KPIs you think clients should be using more to measure the success and impact of their events?
Very good question. So again, vanity metrics, likes, attendance numbers, inviting people just to, butts in seats, if you will. These don't move the needle for a client. The real metrics, and I'm sure I'm speaking to a wide swath of individuals out there, treat your events as you would treat a sales outreach. What's your cost per qualified lead? What's your conversion rate by the segment? Your pipeline, are the right people in attendance, and are they at the right place to move them down your pipeline? And the engagement during the key moments, are you speaking to the right audience, etc. Think about who you're going to invite that will be impacted and transformed by the content of your event. Again, those are metrics that you can, and post event surveys are very good. Post event follow-ups surveys, traditionally people don't have the time nor the desire to fill them out. So yes, they can be a good metrics. I would recommend personal outreach because that gives you an additional touch point. If depending on an event, if it's too many numbers, that might not be feasible. But if you're still doing small events, I think that actually heightens it and gives a really great curated boutique, impact to your attendees as they're coming to your events.
So Alana, you know how small businesses at the beginning, the main purpose of the events is to gain new clients realistically and grow business. And it's only at later stages where they look to do hospitality events for their existing customers. So thinking about gaining new clients, what's one thing we should consider doing before we immediately after the event, before we even leave the event, we are still there. So what's one thing small business owners can do that will make a difference?
Great question. So what I would suggest, again, this is in structure, formulate your structure, your content to allow for a little bit of lag time. Don't just say, okay, that's it, presentation is over, and then everybody rushes out the door. Create a way for them to hang around a little bit, for there's a little bit of a reason to hang around. You will capture those warm leads during those ad hoc, natural conversations. The other thing that I think is really important is if you have the staffing for it, and even if you don't, figure out a way to create a multi-pronged person approach so that while you're focusing on your content, while you're focusing on giving your presentation, you have individuals that are roaming the room, that are connecting with individuals. You can also have papers that are on the table. So if somebody really does need to get out because they have an appointment they have to go to, perhaps you can say, want to talk more. There are multi-touch points are very important. Not everybody responds the same way to touch points. So I think if you take a multi-prong approach by using individuals, so to summarize, using a team of individuals to connect with people, collateral on the table that will collect written contacts, and then bake in a post presentation period where you could do an informal Q&A that will keep people hanging around, and then again be able to have those ad hoc conversations, those natural conversations that you can glean some warm leads from.
That all sounds great theoretically, but thinking about small business owners, for them it may be really overwhelming. Budgets, KPIs, a team of people floating, touch points. So let me throw a challenge at you. If I gave you $750, how would you create an event that's unforgettable and profitable?
Well, that would mean then having the right 12 people in the room. because I think for 750 people, I think that if you were to find some sort of a really interesting venue, say a restaurant, some sort of an unusual location where you could bring in $750 worth of food and beverage, and it can be extremely light. Obviously, no alcohol would be served at that because that would definitely blow the budget for 12 people. But again, we're going back to content. Content is what drives everything. So focus on the content first. Once we figure out what the content is, then we can go find the venue. And usually, like I said, restaurants or alternative venues, they don't necessarily have a rental fee, and then you can have a minimal food and beverage. Off hours, not during the regular dinner hours, not during regular meal hours, things like that. It requires a little bit of investigation. I'm up for any challenge. 750 is definitely a slim budget, but I think that anything can be done. But know that that point you're looking at a curated event with your either your most trusted clients or people that you have already decided that they are warm leads, and this is now your attempt or your an exercise in turning those from warm to hot.
Okay, so it's not a mass market event where you invite a lot of potential
No,
leads and try to convert. Okay, got you.
no.
So every type of budget requires or calls for a different type of events, and that's what I
Mhm.
got it from. Okay, interesting. So my last question. What's one question business owners never ask about events? So they start working with you, sit down, and never ask that question. And they actually should be asking that question. You always ask yourself, how come they never ask that question? So what's that one question that no one ever asks?
It's not so much a question, but it goes back to again what I think the thread has been throughout this entire call is the content, is the purpose. We have to start there. So it's almost more a question that I need to ask them. I need to get in step with the client to find out what is the purpose of even getting people together, because there's no purpose in getting people together if it doesn't serve a function. So let's figure out what the purpose is, because it is a question, but it's a question that you have to ask yourself. What is the purpose of having this event? Is it just because you think you need to have one? It's not a good enough reason. It has to have that ROI. It has to have a purpose. It has to move the needle forward for your business. And again, it has to move the needle forward for either your prospective clients, your existing clients, new clients, or warm leads, etc. So it's more of a reverse question, in my opinion.
Love it. Well, thanks so much for your time. I have just a personal question to ask you before we finish.
Mhm.
Iconic event experiences. I feel this question is so ambitious. This title is so ambitious. It's like me calling my offshore staffing agency the best virtual assistants. It creates a certain level of expectations and shows your confidence and boldness. How did you come up with this name? How did this name come to be?
It's funny. It's actually a family story, to be honest with you. My sister-in-law and my brother both, through their careers, have had different consulting. They're now both working in corporate America, but when they were doing consulting, they had iconic media, they had iconic consulting, and so it was kind of when I was kind of searching for a name for my company, my sister-in-law was let's stay keep it in the family, if you will. And at first I don't have the personality that I'm not an extrovert, to be quite frank. However, I am an extrovert on behalf of my clients. And I do believe that the work that I've done and the work that I can do, that I do, is iconic on behalf of my clients. And every client needs to have and wants to have an iconic event. And people love to believe that their event is iconic, and as every event should be. That is why I work so hard with my clients to make sure that the content is great and that we're getting to the heart of what they want to do with their event. So it's kind of a full circle moment. So that's where it came from. And I've really grown into it as the years have gone by, because I believe the iconic event experiences is actually not about me. It's about my clients, and it's about creating that experience for them, whatever iconic means for them.
I actually think this interview is iconic because what I see is this nymph around your head, which is a kind of lighting lamp in the background. So you look like an angel. And I would like to give away that when we started this interview, you showed up hanging upside down,
I did.
bat or Fledermaus in German. And I was like, what is going on? And I was like, I know you have this ability to bend over backwards for your client, but to
Yes.
hang upside down and give an interview. So that was completely something new to me. So I love
Yeah.
it how you transform from hanging upside down into being a normal position and looking
Yeah.
like an angel by the end of it. So
Yeah,
very
and it's definitely a talent. It's something that I mean, this is what I do for my clients every day, and it never really throws me, but it was actually quite funny. I cannot understand what happened that I showed up upside down.
So, Alana, apart from your ability to hang upside down and give interviews, what is one thing no one knows about you? Spill the beans. We want
Oh
something
goodness.
super
Um,
confidential.
Super confidential?
Yeah.
It's actually my favorite. Whenever they have this question where people say, "What's one thing nobody knows about you?" And it truly is the thing. Well, now I'm outing myself, but it's truly the thing that nobody knows about me. My grandmother was a very devout Catholic, and in her mind, we always had to have somebody from every generation that served the church. And so, unbeknownst to my parents, I would spend summers with my grandmother. And unbeknownst to my parents, one summer, I had an interview with Mother Superior and was accepted into the nunnery. And proceeded then to tell my mother when she called to check up on me, how's it going? And I was like, oh, in September, I'm going into the nunnery. I've been accepted as a novite. And my father was at my grandmother's, she lived about 5 hours away. My father was at my grandmother's kitchen table the next morning saying, we're going home. That's not going to happen.
Oh, wow. For the
Yeah.
sake of our community in South Florida and everywhere else, I'm glad that your dad took measures to
I
pull
think my
it off.
children are happy about that too.
Sure. And your grandchildren. I know that you are
Yeah.
now, your family is growing and expanding.
Mhm.
Congratulations. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Alana. It was Alanna Caron, the iconic event experience consultant creator, who is uniquely popular in South Florida, works on national and international events.
Mhm.
I know that Alana oversaw events that were offshore meetings and conferences and different types of events. So if you'd like to get in touch with Alana, we'll post her details. Reach out for a coffee to find out more about event disasters, for a free consultation, or
Mhm.
just to befriend Alana. This is what I did. I saw her few months, years ago, fell in love with her and decided to befriend her. So she's an amazing friend as well. Thank you, Alana, for your time. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Anna. It's been a pleasure.